All righty, testing. Yeah, I guess that's working. All right. Hey, Joe Hervey, what's happening? I have no idea how to pronounce it. I think it's Hervey, but I like saying Hervey. Oh, this is on, huh? What is going on? Wait till a few more people pop in here, and we shall discussing what my pet peeves of the week, month, year, lifetime, whatever it is. Um, because it's I watch YouTube and like things come up in my feed and it's basically anything music related. I almost feel like I can't even watch. I have no interest, but I did watch a few this week and I'm going to talk about that. Um, so we'll get to that. Got 5 people in here right now. Yes, the second way. I thought you were doing a video on this. Yeah, so I mean, well, I wasn't going to do a video. I was basically just going to do a live chat because um 6 people here. I'll wait for a few more minutes and then we'll get going on my little rant and beef and everything else that's good. It is Tuesday night. The DL show tomorrow night will be live as usual with the usual suspects, which should be cool. And no problem, Joe Harvey. No, not a problem. So, I mean, I can start now because most people, you know what? I find that most people watch my live streams after and probably watch the whole thing because they comment on stuff where I have to go back and be like, what are they talking about? Oh, okay. So, when I started playing guitar, it was back in 1981. And I always hear people say, oh, I started playing guitar to pick up girls. And I find that absurd because no, not for Trogley. No, I never see his stuff. It's nonsense, anyways. But when I heard people say, "Oh, I play guitar to pick up girls," I'm like, "Have you seen the girls that listen to rock and roll music, especially the stuff that I liked at 13 years old? They all look like Christy McNichol, but uglier, and that's not good. At least it wasn't for me." So, um, for me, it was about making music. I was a huge Jimmy Page fan as a kid, and I also was a very big Kiss fan. So when I first started learning guitar, it was all um, Led Zeppelin, Kiss, and all the rock music that I wanted to. And the goal for me was to figure out how to make music. And making music is what music is all about. And even when I was a kid, I remember my neighbor had a 335 and he was a jazz guitarist and he played jazz. And I always just pictured that as a jazz guitar when I was a kid. Some people had Les Pauls. I always wanted a Les Paul because I used to see Jimmy Page playing one. And then I got into playing Kramers because I was a big Eddie Van Halen fan. And I love the way the Kramers play. In fact, I had a 1985 or 86 Beretta that had a really wide nut, 1 3/4. And since then, I've been playing 1 3/4 nuts on everything. And I'll go into that a little bit too. But the Kramer, and I had some Kramers that had 1 5/8, and I never played those much and sold them. But the one that had the 1 3/4, which is very similar to like the ESP Kamikaze, it had a neck that I really, really liked. And then about the time when I was playing in bands in high school, a friend of mine bought a Strat and I played a Strat and I was like, ooh, I like the sounds of this. The playability of it I thought was decent. It was close enough to home to the Kramers that I was used to playing. But I really liked the pickup configuration, the pickups, the sound of the guitar. And and when you play a guitar and you pick up a guitar, it inspires you. It's like if you pick up a Strat, it's going to inspire you. When you pick up a Telly, it inspires you. This Telly here, let me just show this Telly. Now, this is not the original neck that came on this guitar. This guitar was built by a gentleman in Amsterdam named Luke Whitfield, and he owns a company called Rebel Relic Guitars. And you can go on their website. Rebel Relic makes some of the best effing strats and tellies. He's a great builder and he's a great guy. And he also is really reasonably priced for getting a custom instrument. When I think back in 2009 or 10, whenever I got this, I paid like $2,000. And that was including the shipping and everything else. So this was, and so what happened was I asked him to make this guitar with a 1 3/4 nut, which he didn't do. He couldn't do the stainless frets that I wanted. He had never done them, and he was like, "Let me see if I can figure it out." And his wife was sick at the time, and I felt terrible. I'm like, "Dude, just make it the way you make it and send it to me." And I played it the way he sent it to me for years, and then I sold the neck to a guy in New Jersey who, to this day, will message me every now and then and tell me how much he loves that neck and it's his favorite guitar now, which I'm thrilled about because I'd love to see somebody get that neck and play. It just wasn't wide enough. So I bought this neck from Warmouth. And I went with the 1 3/4 because that's what I like. It's also really beefy and super jumbo stainless steel frets. And that's what I like. But when I pick up this guitar, like I want to play major sevens. I like that. That's what this guitar inspires me to do. When I pick up a Strat, I don't feel that. When I pick up anything, so that is really where the guitar becomes beneficial to have many guitars because each one will draw something different out of you. To sit there and say, well, I need this guitar because I need a single coil pickup or I need that's silliness. That to me is silly. To me, it's much more about the total vibe of the whole guitar in your hand and how you feel when you hold it. Whether your guitar has single coils. I mean, they make some Gretches that have single coils and humbuckers, the same models. I think it's the Duo Jet, which is the pickups that I wanted, which was the humbucking and the Duo Jets, which I got in this. But if you wanted those pickups, but the guitar itself has a feel like a Les Paul, whether a Les Paul has mini buckers, whether it has humbuckers in it, or whether it has P90s. The guitar has a feel that when you pick up a Les Paul, that feel inspires you to play. And so that becomes a thing. And I think people get so onto the pickups. I mean, I've played guitars with humbuckers where I'm like, these humbuckers are terrible. And some guitars I pick up and I'm like, I love these humbuckers. But that's my opinion. And I've watched people do reviews and they tell me these pickups are fantastic and they love the guitar and they're playing it. And then I go try it. And I'm like, man, this is terrible. So reviews can be one of those things where I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. Like, it's kind of difficult they should pretty much say it from a point of view of what they're looking for in a sound. Because I watched this metal guy the other day was trying pedals and he was comparing a real tube screamer to some other tube screamer. And basically they both sounded kind of decent when he had it going into a clean amp. Then he started showing it how he uses it on some stupid 8-string guitar with nothing but go, 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 which sounded like a toilet flushing every time he played it. And to me, it was like there was no difference. They both sounded like shit. They both sounded terrible. It's not something that I think that pedal's great at doing anyways. So, but here's my issue with the gear page. So I was thinking about some tubes the other day and I was trying to figure out the electricity, the plate voltage, and basically the difference between a beam tetrode and a pentode tube. Because I wanted to understand the mechanics of it. And so when I Googled it, all came up as these things about the EL34 is a pentode that is warmer, has more mids warm, and it basically gave the bullshit from the gear page where they were quoting from. And then some companies that are making these same claims, which these things are all bullshit. When Fender came out with the Bassman and they had the 59 Bassman, that's what Marshalls were based on. And Marshalls modded them. And yes, Marshalls changed the tubes. I believe the original tubes in the Bassman in 59 were 5881s, which is a very common American tube, which is easy and accessible to get in America in 1959 when Leo Fender was sourcing them. So when it came time for Jim Marshall to source tubes in England, it makes more sense to source EL34s. It was the more common tube in England. So therefore, he, built the amp and designed the amp around the tube, basically how the tube's going to respond to the, but whatever. If he's made several 5881 amps, he's made amps with 6550s. They all sound like Marshalls. In fact, if I didn't tell you that they had that they didn't have EL34s, you wouldn't know. You would have no idea. In fact, we could all sit there and listen to 30 different Marshalls and say, yep, that's a Marshall. That's a Marshall. You're not going to know what tube is in it. You're going to have no idea. And the same really goes for preamp tubes as well. There's a great video by Jim Lill who basically shows the bullshit of preamp tubes, because basically there's like two main preamp tubes and one just has a higher output. So you just turn the volume up a little bit. And I always get a kick out of these people that will sit there and tell me about the tubes. Well, this one is slightly warmer. So you're telling me if I retube my dual rectifier, because you can retube them and slide the bias thing over. If I retube this to an EL34, it's going to make it warmer. Or let me just see if I get this straight. I could adjust the tone with the EQ. I don't have to go change the tubes. You mean these knobs I can turn? I don't have to. Keep them locked at 12 o'clock like they tell me in every fucking review. Like, I love these reviews. They're like, here's everything at 12 o'clock. I don't care what it sounds like at 12 o'clock. I could give two shits. Set up the pedal to make it sound the way you think it sounds good, and then play it. So they show, like, you could take, like, I watch these ones where they compare tube screamers, and it's like, well, this one's just a hair brighter. So, there's tolerances in these things. And if you're using an equal component but a different brand, there'll be a tolerance difference. You could easily move the thing a centimeter and have both sound exactly the same. They would both sound the same. But people are afraid to turn, we're going to compare these both at 12 o'clock. Well, that's ridiculous. Well, are we comparing tolerances? No. You're comparing the pedal. Do they both do the same thing where you think the sweet spot sounds good? That's all I give a shit. That's all I want to know. I don't want to know if you think, this one's really bright when you tap the tone all the way up. Well, who cares? Who cares if you tap the tone all the way up? Are you going to play it like that? Probably not. So therefore, I don't give a shit. But this tube is warmer. You should retube your amp with EL34s because it's warmer. Oh, really? So can I just take my treble down? Do I have to go retube the whole amp? Let me go take it to a tech, have him retube it, bias it, just so I can fucking have the tone go a little warmer. Because I guess these knobs in the EQ over here, they're not working properly. So it drives me nuts. And one of the reasons it drives me nuts is because when I started playing guitar, all I wanted to do was learn songs, learn music, play songs, make them sound good. And any piece of gear I ever had, I always managed to make it sound pretty good. I love this. I don't know if you guys see these Van Halen videos with Steve Rosen, and you hear Eddie in his very Casey Kasem sounding voice. Because to me, Eddie sounds like Casey Kasem, and he's like, "I'm always been like a tone." He's a raspier Casey Kasem. I'm top. He could be doing top 40 if he brings up his energy a little bit. He's like, "I've always been a tone chaser." Yeah, you know who else is a tone chaser? Everyone that fucking picked up a guitar. They're constantly, when I first started playing, I had a PV Bandit. I could make the thing sound good. In fact, and this is not tugging on my own suspenders, I've never heard a bad player with good tone. It doesn't matter what gear. I've gone to so many different, you can go to an open jam and you can see everyone getting up there playing the same rig. And some guys' tones are going to be great. And the rest of them are going to be like, eh. If you can't play, you don't have good tone. If you play, you can play anything. It doesn't matter. I don't care if it's a solid state amp, if you plug and direct in with a DI, you'll have good tone if you can play. And that's the whole thing about, but they can't sell that to you on YouTube. They can't sell you, oh, I'm doing a gear channel where I'm going to show you. Like I watched, and I got this. This is a new mic. It's called, I don't know whether it's called the F2s. I like calling it Fiduci. Sounds fancier. I got a Fiduci. Hey, it's a Fiduci. But anyways, I watched a guy do a review, and it wasn't of this mic. It was of the other mic that I had, and they compared them to all these mics. And for me, I was like, well, that mic, that it sounded quieter in the background. I was like, oh, I like the way that sounded. And the thing was $60. So I'm like, I'll just order it. If I don't like it, I'll give it away. If I like it, I'll keep it. I like it a lot. But the thing was, the complaint that the person had about it was, well, it can be a little bassy. I'm like, okay, you just showed us that you're going into a mixer. EQ the fucking thing. Everyone's afraid to touch a knob. I can't believe it. I'm like, oh, And meanwhile, this thing next to the SM7B sounded like a smoke show. The 7B to me sounded terrible. So anyways, it's that pedal channel, I like those guys. That pedal show, you mean? I like those guys. I mean, it's a little redundant, a little too much playing and not enough but they dialed it in and they play, and I like those guys. But yeah, I never saw that one, Epiphonium, the Sweetwater Metal. Yeah, I mean, some of these reviews are just crazy. So one of the reviews I saw today was crazy, was on the PRS NF 53. So PRS has come up with the idea that we're going to sell you a $4,000 Telecaster, and we're going to which I don't know if I get it. I love they say like the PRS flat bridge. Yeah, it's a half bridge that like Fender's Tele bridge. I've seen a couple of other companies do it. There was actually a company, I think it was called Bluesman down in Tennessee, that made it like that. I saw it first from. And other people have used it, and it's nothing new. And then they have these narrow field pickups. Now, this pickup sales that they're trying to push, first of all, I worked at a store, managed a store. We sold PRS. I've never liked the PRS pickup or thought that one was anything that ever thrilled me. And none of them ever thrilled me. I mean, some were cool, but I was like, man, if you ever got that PRS, it's a cool guitar. But the first thing I would do is change the pickups. I just don't care. But these are like a narrow field, and I don't know what you could replace them with. I don't know what the size is. Oh, I thought it was 38. I thought it was 4,000, 3,800. Oh, it's $3,000. Or is it 2,800? I think it was 38. I don't know. Either way. But then the guy reviewing it said some said some strange things. He says, the nut is really narrow, surprisingly narrow. This is the guy reviewing it on PRS's channel. He says the nut is surprisingly narrow, but comfortable. I could play it all day. Well, I don't like a narrow nut. I know a lot of guys that love a narrow nut. I don't like it. So don't try to sell me that, oh, this is narrow, but you're going to like it anyways. No, I won't. But I get it. You're trying to sell it. And I don't know why you went with a narrow nut on a Telecaster. It just doesn't. Yes, I will be on at the same time tomorrow night. But the point is they even come out and say it's surprisingly narrow. Okay. Then it's a 10 radius. I mean, it's basically a Telecaster. Now, tons of people make great Telecasters. Fender makes a great Telecaster. G&L makes a great ASAT Telecaster. Great. Sir, what's the guy's name? Tom, I forget his name already. The other guy that who was going to retire 100 times and never did. And now PRS is making it, but they try to make it like it's a big deal. And the only thing I could say about it is, if I don't like those pickups in the long run, I'm stuck with them because I don't know what size they are width-wise. So if I have to go in Anderson, thank you, Tom Anderson. If I have to go change the pickup, do I have to route the guitar now and damage the guitar? So it just seemed to me like it's a very expensive thing to have. Now, if you wanted to make yourself a Telecaster, you could call Warmouth for parts, get the bridge, a really nice bridge, just like that. You might even be able to buy that exact bridge. I don't know who makes it for PRS or if they make it themselves. I know their bridges, their tremolos were made by Man-Made, was the name of the company, MANN. So I don't know who's making this, but you could pretty much get something just like it and build yourself your own Telecaster with the pickups that you like, and you would be well under $2,000. Now, if you wanted to go with fancier woods, that would be a little different. Then you might get over to $2,000, but probably not. And the guitar, to me, it just doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. But what I see is people having videos that say, "Ooh, this is a game changer." What changed? What changed? Now, where do I see people buying this guitar? You go into a shop, they have one, you pick it up, and if you love it and you have that kind of money, you'll buy it. Otherwise, I don't really see, like, if you're a telly guy, that you would maybe love it. And I love the fact they have a guy playing all kinds of telly licks on it, no matter what instrument you play. If you're playing country licks, it's going to sound like a country guitar. I mean, I didn't Brent Mason already be playing a PRS and his stuff. When he chicken picks on his PRS, it sounds like chicken picking. If you chicken pick, whatever you pick up and chicken pick on, it's going to sound like a chicken picking guitar. But they want to accentuate this a telly, and tellies are known for chicken picking. They're doing all the where is it? So, anyways, it's like no matter what you play. So like I said, the reason I got this guitar made, and anyways, when I changed the neck, I went with a 1 3/4 big baseball bat. But I love it for this. Basically that sound. I was looking for the Johnny Marr, Robin Guthrie sound that I couldn't get out of my hard rock styled guitars. So, and I don't know if you can even hear that. I can hear it, but I don't know if you guys can hear my guitar. But you could play metal on a telly. In fact, Chris Cornell played at a telly, and there's been plenty. I mean, all the Zeppelin stuff was tellies and Les Pauls. It doesn't matter what you play. It depends on how it affects you as the player. What are you drawing from it? What are you creating from it? I mean, you can't hear it? You don't hear the guitar? Hold on. Is that true? Where is the guitar? Oh, how about now? You guys hear that? Yeah, I had to turn on the output for the guitar. So yeah, so you have that's the sound that I'm looking like when I play this. Yeah, now when I was doing the country thing, I was doing. Anyways, the point I'm making, you pick up an instrument and it inspires you, and that's what you play, and all these people, they have these different pedals, and And I was a victim of it too, because I was, I hear a pedal and I love it. When you go start putting it and stacking it and everything, it all becomes the same. You basically can get a lot of stuff with the same thing. And I love when people refer to amplifiers as pedal platform amps, because I find it to be bullshit. Because if you put like a fuzz in front of what they refer to as a pedal platform amp, it doesn't sound good. Most fuzzes don't. I mean, there are several fuzzes. I could name the Brad Jetters. The Indigo fuzz sounds great on a clean amp. And there are some other ones that sound fairly decent, but most of them sound better going into an amp that's already at breakup. You work on acoustics? What do you mean I work on them? I mean, there's a very specific feeling acoustic that I like when I play, but I wouldn't consider myself working on electrics. I have a guy that actually does the work. I just tell him what I want. But I understand the components and everything else, So like in all my guitars, I put treble bleeds on my volume pots, because when I play live and I turn down to play like maybe a softer passage, I don't want to lose my high end. And you will lose high end. Yeah, no, basically no. I don't do my own maintenance. Well, maintenance is one thing, but repairs and stuff, I have a guy. I got a guy. He's a guy. But anyways, so, all these things when it comes to the tubes, and people will tell you about amplifiers. And I mean, EL84s is warmer than a 6V. Well, it's funny because they'll say like Vox amps are jangly and warm. Well, that's the opposite. That's the opposite. Jangly and warm are opposites. But this one, so it's like, I think it's a rosewood, a dark rosewood. Yeah, it's rosewood. So, it really just depends on so many different variables. But I mean, I get the biggest kick out of people. It's like, oh, that's going to be a little warmer. Really? Yeah. You have, there's an EQ on your amp. You can change it. And I say that because, I used to talk to some people, and they used to tell me about a buddy of mine, and they'd say, have you ever heard his amp? And I was like, no. He's like, it sounds like shit. But it's a Carvin, so what do you expect? And I was like, really? I don't really have any experience with Carvins. So I went to go see him play live, and he sounded like shit. And he asked me to come up and play with him. And I said, do you mind if I tweak your amp? He says, no. So I went up and I tweaked his amp, and then I sat in on a song. And after the song, he came to me and he says, what the hell did you do to my amp? It sounds fantastic. I said, I EQ'd it. You had it sounding horrible. And he's like, I'm going to keep it just like this. I said, take a picture so you don't lose the settings. I don't like questions. Well, I don't mind the question. The question was, but I didn't understand the question when you say, do I work on them? Because I don't really work on my guitars. That's what I mean. So it was like your question insinuated that I work on my own stuff, and I really don't. Yeah, turn the knobs. Yeah, exactly. And people don't realize that. I mean, there's so much gear, and people have, like, I see people talk about, oh, I'm thinking about getting this and getting that. It's like, yeah, I've heard you play, and you really should just sit and practice. Like, whatever you got to do just to work out the kinks, work it out. I mean, I know it's exciting to go out and buy guitars. At one point, I had 50. Now I'm down to like 12. I'm in fact, and if I had my ways, and people wanted to buy some, I'd be down at 8. I don't care anymore, because I really just like to play. And the collecting of the nonsense for me just becomes, a pain in the ass, because you really are just, I don't know, you're not really playing them all. But really, when I see these videos of like, how do you sound like David Gilmour on a budget? Well, I would take your budget and buy lessons. Figure out what you need to work on. Most people don't even know what they need to work on. I see guys play live all the time, and I'm like, this guy can't bend in tune. And that drives me nuts, especially coming from a country where I've played in country gigs. You really become sensitive to the bends. And when people don't bend in tune, I'm like, and you listen to Gilmour, he's always in tune. Always in tune. He's great. He's very sensitive to that. And guys sit there and they play, or they'll Even try to play like Eric Clapton. Clapton bends in tune. He bends in tune. And a great solo to practice and try to get in tune with Clapton is Forever Man. It's a simple solo that but it has some really nice bends and it's melodic, but it'll help you record yourself and play it back. But it just seems like the world has gone because of the internet. No, not really, Cheech. You'd be surprised. I mean, so I love Jimmy Page. I love Gilmore, but I mean, I love Michael Schenker. I love Uli Roth, Steve Wariner. I love Alan Holdsworth. I mean, there's so many things you can get from different players. If you love music, there's just it's infinite. You know what I mean? Like I love guys like Robin Guthrie from Cocteau Twins. I love Johnny Marr from the Smiths. I love like all that. So yeah, I'm not a big Neil Young guy. There's some guys that I technically do not like. But yeah, so like I love all these different types of players and everybody for a different reason. I love George Benson. George Benson's an unbelievable guitar player. Steve Lukather is one of my all-time heroes. Neil Schon, or Sean, however you pronounce that. This is not, I had this since 2009 or 10. I can't remember when I actually ordered it. But I love Don Felder. I love all these guys. Like, I mean, Don Felder with, the... I mean, One of These Nights is one of my favorite solos. I mean, Felder had some great stuff. A lot of guys have great material in songs where they just... lately, I've been listening to Pat Travers, the song I Love You from the Black Pearl album. It's fantastic. Just that way he plays that. Love it. Love it. There's so many things I love in people's playing. And when I play and when I'm working on something, I'm trying to be inspired by the music of it. Not so much the chasing of the tone. That's, you can dial in the tone of anything. You can spend time with something. And if it's not working out for you, get rid of it and buy something new. But if you have something that's working and you're just chasing stuff just because you want to be a tweaker and, all the luck to you. But that's not playing. That to me is not very musical. It's not really what about the musical journey should be. It's really about playing. And I mean, I could sit there and I put on some of my all-time favorite albums and I'll listen to them. And it's like every time I'm inspired by something else that, excellent, Cheech. Glad to hear that. It's just, let me just, and I have something to say about that because I had my physical today and I could not believe the questions they're asking me on my physical. But it basically just goes to show you how crazy our medical system is. And anyways, I told him about the dye and he goes, whatever, you're looking fucking great. And all my numbers were awesome. So, but yeah. So anyways, they asked me if I wear a seatbelt when I drive a car. I'm like, this is a medical question. Unbelievable. But anyways, the point is to play and practice and play music for the love of music. And these YouTube channels that, some of them have, the ulterior motive is that's how they're making a living. They're making a living reviewing things and telling you like it's great. Is it great? I don't know. Have you ever played in okay, for instance, these Carvin amps that my buddy had, beautiful amps. They looked beautiful. They sounded good after I played it. Was I inspired to go and buy it? No, I don't care. Didn't care. Didn't wow me to the point where I felt like, oh my God, I need to own that. I was like, sounds great. Sounds great now. Great playing amp, great sounding amp. I hope you enjoy it. So when I was, playing my dual rectifier out all the time, and when I bought the dual rectifier, I like the dual rectifier's drive sound much better than I like a Marshall's. It's more transparent to me. It's cleaner, even though it's got as much distortion, if not more, but it's not like this coloration that I hear in Marshall. And I call it the yellow sound. I know some people like to call it brown, but I call it yellow. It sounds like there's a metallic sheen, like when you strum an E chord into a Marshall with a little bit of dirt on it. It almost sounds like a tube screamer is going through it already because it has this yellow sound to me. I don't know why I hear yellow. I don't know where that comes from, but it's what it sounds like to me. So I really like the dual rectifier's distortion sound. Now, anytime I've ever taken my gig out on the rig, I'm basically playing it with the distortion maybe at most at 1 o'clock. It's never dimed. I don't like that sound. So it's fairly distorted, but not like over the top. It definitely has more of a vintage sound, even though I'm playing the red channel. Every Saturday I play, yeah. So I still do. I even though I play the red channel because I like the tone of the red channel better. It's a little bit more scooped than the orange, so I like that. But I'll tell you that as much as I like the dual rectifier's dirty channel is as much as I dislike its clean channel. And when I was playing gigs, I didn't need the clean channel that much. And so I figured it was something worth sacrificing. Now, down the road, I ended up hearing the Bogner Shiva. Now, the Shiva comes in two ways, the EL34s, 6L6s. I've played both of them because I was a Bogner dealer, and they both sound the same. They're both fantastic. To me, they're the same amp. It's whatever you like. But to me, the Bogner Shiva is probably the most versatile because not only is the distortion channel just up my alley, not over the top, but just almost more like a Marshall, but again, more transparent. And then the clean channel's fantastic, like a Fender. And so I love, if somebody said to me, what if you were going to buy an amp for like every purpose gig, I think the Bogner Shiva is probably up there, if not the amp to get. In fact, I considered buying one, but then I'm like, well, if I ever go up on the road again or get into a band where I'm out there working a lot, playing it, then I would get it. But I'm not doing that anymore right now, so there's no need for me to run out and buy an amp that's going to collect dust. But it's a great amp. And Reinhold Bogner is one of my favorite builders because every one of his amps, I think, has a great sound, and he's a great maker. And not just him, but there are a lot of great makers. Stephen Fryette makes great amps, and as Bingham's been on the show, Bad Cat's going to be kicking ass out there soon. So but every amp has. In fact, I like this crank amp a lot. This one, where's my hand? Over here, this crank amp. The Revolution 1 amps are really nice. The Krankensteins, I do not like. Too many clipping diodes in those, and it just sounds like shit. These don't. These sound like great amps. So, but anything can sound good if you dial it in. And that's basically what I'm trying to say is you can dial in just about anything. There are people that it's like, oh, I want to play like, I'm going to sound like Chris Squire, so I need to get myself a Rickenbacker bass. Well, bullshit. You can buy a Rickenbacker bass if you really like the way those basses play. And if you're in a Yes tribute band, I would recommend it because then you look like you're playing the bass that he played. But anyone can get that sound. I mean, basically all you need is 2 amps because you're going to have to go in and give a clean and then a distorted, and you're going to have to tweak them accordingly. So that being the case, you can get that sound with any bass. Now, I mean, the Rico sound has the stereo, so you pan out. But either way, you're going to have to run 2 amps. Or if you're in Pro Tools, you could just play one channel, duplicate it, re-EQ it, and then throw it through a distorted amp, and then you have the both sounds together and mix and match. It's kind of what I used to do when I record my amplifiers, is I always record with a dynamic and a ribbon together. And then I mix them up and down in volume till I get the sound that to me sounds most natural, like the amp being in the room. That's how I do it, and I tend to really like that. My favorite acoustic amp is a company called AER, and AER is a German company, and they make fantastic acoustic amps. They're my favorite acoustic. So, but anyways, like I was saying about that, um, about doing that with when you're with the two microphones. Microphones is another thing. The people sit there and they'll tell you, like I like when I mic amplifiers, I mic them with like a dynamic mic and a ribbon mic. Now, if I have my druthers, if I have my choice of mics when I'm going in on the amp, I like a 57 Shure and I like a Royer 121. Those are the two mics I like. I've used Coles before in the ribbon mic and Sennheiser 421s also. The 421s to me are a little boomier than the 57s. So, and I kind of like the boominess to come from the ribbon. The ribbon definitely has more of a mid range, and you have to be careful when you're reading the. A lot of people read like the frequency range of certain microphones and make their basis on that. Well, the frequency range really isn't as important as how it sounds. You really can't check that unless you either try it, because when I do my gigs, I'm using a blue mic and it's an Encore 200. Jimmy just bought himself a blue Encore 200, and Emily has a blue Encore 300, which is a handheld condenser. So the 200s, well, they're dynamic mics, but they're powered. They take phantom power, but they have I think the frequency range is 40 to 14 or 15 or 50 to 15. Either way, a lot of the mics tend to have a lower, like a bigger low hump, and these don't, which is why I like them. I don't like that low hump. And, a lot of times if you get a mic that has lower than like 35, you'll hear it in the lower hump there. But generally, because all condenser mics, if they're worth their shit, are 20 to 20, 20 hertz to 20,000. So yeah, I prefer 80-20 acoustic strings over phosphor bronze. I'm not a phosphor bronze fan. I do like 80-20s. They do seem brighter. However, if your guitar is a cheap acoustic and it's bright and wimpy sounding as it is, then I would say put on phosphor bronze. It'll help correct it. But if the guitars are solid, like the Martins definitely sound better with 80-20s, even though they come with phosphor bronze. And all the Taylors come with 80-20s, which is why a lot of people right out of the gate go, ooh, these are bright. Well, the strings are bright. And they put on bright strings. It's 80-20 is 80% copper, 10%, 20% tin, I believe. Whereas phosphor bronze is like 92, 7, and 1% phosphorus. So, but yeah. Anyways, so that's all I would say about that. And if you're doing any home recording, you can really just get away with any 57 and some condenser mic. And use your ear. EQ what you want to hear. Make sure it sounds how you want to hear it. Don't be afraid of controls in the middle. When I do gigs, and I hate to call them out, I sometimes have to be like to the guy I play with, don't be afraid to turn the knob. Turn the fucking knob. It doesn't sound good. And if something doesn't sound good, you turn the knob. If something's too low, pull it out. If it's too boomy, fix it. You can easily fix it in the EQ. Everything's fixable. But best to get it right. And, certain mics and certain things have characters just like pickups. Pickups have a character. And if you like that character, then use it. If you don't like it, don't. You show me a half step bend into a full step bend? Well, what do you mean a half step to a full step? Just to go like I don't know what you mean by it. Here's a full. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. I don't have much experience with it. But Zoom seems to make decent products. I have a Zoom Q2 around here somewhere. God knows what I did with it. They seem to make decent stuff. I mean, really, if you want to get a decent recording of something, it's got to come from you. You'll figure out how to do it, because I could sit there and say the Zoom is great, and then you make a recording and it sounds terrible. Well, is it Zoom's fault or yours? So you got to really just kind of dial it in and get it to like A sharp, which is to a G, and to a C to a D. I don't even know what that is. Yeah. So, and again, it's another one of those things where if the player is playing good, like if you go to record a guy who can play, yeah, well, Fez, I mean, Prince used to record with a 57 on his voice. It's really preference. You know, Frank Sinatra used to use that old RCA 44, I think it's called, the old ribbon mics. And I mean, condenser mic like a U87. I mean, it's really, when you say I have consumer condenser, I mean, condenser mic, I mean, not all condenser mics are made equal. A U87 from Neumann is the industry standard. You know what I mean? And so to me, that's a great sounding mic. And there was a couple of other knockoffs. Guys used to make them. I can't remember his name. Lawrence, was it, out of Nashville, made a great. But yes, if you're using a condenser mic, so a condenser mic is not like a dynamic mic. So I used to have a condenser on in this videos. In fact, this here is a condenser. And I don't use it when I'm in this room, except for when I'm recording my lessons with Acoustic, because then it picks up the room, and I want that reverb from the room. I want that because otherwise it's going to sound too dry. But when I'm talking, if you notice, you don't hear the crickets anymore for shit, because now I'm using a dynamic mic, and a dynamic mic doesn't have that type of sensitivity. You're really just hearing the character of my voice. So it takes a lot of that out. So, you know, a dynamic mic is basically almost like the way a guitar pickup works, with a coil that goes over a magnet. You get the diaphragm over that. Whereas on a condenser, it's on a back plate. It's really changing capacitance. And so there's a different way the mic works. Yeah, Angelina's doing great. AKG condenser and a flathead ribbon, lower end. Fathead. Yeah, so the ribbon mics, you have to be careful with getting some of the lower end stuff. There have been some quality low end stuff. I think MXL made a pretty decent one. They made kind of like a Royer 121 ripoff that was pretty good. And AEA makes a great 44, an old RCA 44 clone. That one costs a little, you know, a little few bucks behind that one, but you're paying for what it's worth it. And you know, AKG is fine. AKG for me, God, I remember, what was it, the 441? What is that big AKG mic that we used to use on stuff? I think it's the 442, maybe 441. I don't know why I'm blanking. But yeah, AKG is okay. I don't love them. I don't hate them. They're okay. There are some mics, like I said, there are mics I love, and then mics where, you know, and I don't really get too involved with the mics. When I was producing and we were working with Vinny Colaiuta, when I first went in there, Vinny played the kit, and I hated the sound of the snare. It was before Vinny got there. It was when the tech was playing. And instantly I said, because I went in the room and it sounded great. And then I went in the control room and I'm like, I'm not hearing the same drum. And so my engineer went in and swapped out the mic, and the second mic he put on it was fantastic. It was like, so, and we only use really high quality mics. So it's really, again, a preference. It's a preference of what you want to hear. And that's really about everything with music. Where everyone's like a tone chaser because we all want to hear something, no matter what we play. When we hear it, somebody could sit and play and be like, "Oh, I love this song I just wrote. It reminds me of Billy Gibbons and sounds like Billy Gibbons." And the next guy walks in and goes, "Dude, that's really cool, but it doesn't sound like Billy Gibbons." It doesn't have to, but to you it does, and that's what inspired you. And you're making music, and oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's nothing wrong with recording with dynamic mics. There's a lot of professional songs and recordings that use dynamic mics as the vocal mic, and there's lots of reasons for it. I think Prince's reason was Prince did not like to sing with headphones on, and a lot of singers have trouble dealing with pitch when they have headphones on. So to alleviate that, they sing without headphones on into a dynamic mic with the speakers far back towards them. So the mic doesn't pick up the song, but basically that's how Prince would record it, from what I understood, that he did not like headphones or condenser mics. But yeah, I mean, you listen to a great record like Ricky Lee Jones, what's that album called? Her first solo record, and that thing's all U87s and 57s. Which to me are the only two mics you need, in my opinion. Yeah, SE is good. I had a friend of mine that used to work for SE. She works for Genelec now. Wouldn't you want the sound as close to your ears? Well, it depends. If you can't sing in pitch and that's the only way you can do it. And there's other people that do it. It's not just Prince. There's other guys that don't like wearing headphones in the studio, and they don't. And you get ways of getting around it. But you really, when you're, whatever it is, whatever mic you want to sing into, I mean, when you go into a studio, I'll tell you a story. I was doing a record. It was for a guy who was a singer. And he asked me, I forget the name. It was a Conrad. I'm trying to think of the record company he was signed to. Anyways, I had to go to this house where the recording studio was in the Hollywood Hills, and it was on a cliff. And the room that I'm in is on a cliff, and it was unbelievable, beautiful looking. And at the gig, I brought it. At the time, I had a Taylor 710 CE Limited that was given to me from Bob Taylor. And I went and played it, and in the room, the fucking guitar sounded gorgeous. I was like, and so I'm ready for the guy in my headphones to say to me, "Man, that thing sounds unbelievable." And he says, "That guitar sounds like crap." And I'm like, "Well, you want to come in here for a second?" So he comes in the room, and I stop playing the parts, and he goes, "Oh my God, this thing sounds beautiful. I'm not getting that at all." This was the producer now, not the engineer. So he calls the engineer in here, and the engineer's like, "This is one of my favorite mics." And it was, I don't know what mic it was, but either way, I was like, "Is that a Telefunken 251 in that Telefunken case?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "And we're not using it?" And he basically set up the Telefunken 251, and the guitar sounded like $1 million. It was unbelievable. But and that happens with vocalists a lot too. Certain vocalists will sound amazing on a U87, and then you get to another one, and you're like, there's something too brittle in the voice, and you go to like a ribbon mic, or you go to something that's warmer that makes it that complements the voice. And and it doesn't mean that it's a bad microphone. It doesn't mean everything is preference and taste. And that's the same when it comes to guitars. Like, I'm not saying that PRS can't make a decent pickup. They can't make a decent pickup for me. I don't like their pickups. I've never liked it. Now, could I change on it? Yeah, absolutely. But up until about 2010, even on the Johnny Highland guitar, I always thought their stuff was uninspiring. Beautiful. And if anyone ever asks me, what do I think of PRS guitars? I'll tell you right now, they're the best fit and finish in the business. They're fantastic. They're beautiful instruments. And if you dig it and it inspires you to play, then what the fuck is your holdup? Buy the fucking thing. They're great. But if it doesn't speak to you, don't. But that doesn't mean it's not a great instrument. Just the same way you could say a Strat. Their Strats are great, But like, let's put it this way. I'll tell you where it's most obvious, but it is obvious in the Strats. But if you bought a custom shop jazz bass, and they used to have it called the Custom Classic, this jazz bass was un-effing believable. The fit and finish, the feel, everything about that bass, it was like, this is how every bass should be made. And the Custom Classic from Fender and the Stratocaster, and the Tele, same thing. This is the way the instrument should be made. Did it play better than the $2,000 deluxe American version? 100 times better. You could feel it immediately how much better it was. Why? And why don't they make them all like that? I don't know. But there is a difference. But that doesn't mean that when you go to record, if you took a Highway 1 jazz bass, you could ever tell the difference between that and the custom shop. That's not what the experience is. The experience is not in what you're going to hear. And it does not have that kind of value where it's so much more of a bass that anyone would ever tell. You could never tell. But as a player, and if it's going to inspire you and you want to feel like, yes, there is some value there as the person playing it, which is very difficult to explain to people or, to get across. And is that important to you? Because what they do is they try to sell it to you like this is the sound. And that's not the sound. You can get the sound from anything. And Fender even shows it on their where they have a guy make a Stratocaster out of corrugated cardboard. It sounds like a Strat. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they make it out of. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. But at the end of the day, when you pick it up, does it make you want to, like these Mexican Strats? They're like, oh, it's made from 5 pieces of wood. Who gives a shit? Do I know it? Could you tell how many pieces this is made out of? You'd have no idea. But the point is, it doesn't matter. Does it make you, does it inspire you? I love bass, Cheech. In fact, my favorite bass is a Music Man. My Music Man Sterling USA. It's called the Sterling Classic. Made in USA, fantastic. One of my all-time, it inspires me to play all the time and thump around. I love it. I love the sound of those basses. In fact, that's a company too where the fit and finish and the quality is fantastic. So why don't I own a Music Man guitar? Because I don't like the neck. I think it's too narrow. It's too small. The guitar bodies are a little small. There's something about the whole package that I don't dig. Could I tell the difference if you recorded a Strat with a Music Man? What do they call that guitar? I can't even remember the name of it. But could you tell no, I couldn't tell you the difference. And wouldn't matter. But as a player, when I pick it up, then it speaks to me. And that's where I'm like, see, this has a big, fat, beefy neck. So this speaks to me when I hear. This guitar, when I pick it up, I just want to play all this type of sound. So, I'm not going to sit there and play Black Sabbath on this, although I could. And I have played AC/DC on this. But it's what inspires you, and that's what's important. And as far as telling somebody, well, this tube is warmer, bullshit. You don't even understand how the fucking amplifier works at that point. Because when you start with the tube, there's a whole circuit that goes on. And like I said, I've heard dual rectifiers that have been retubed with the L34s. I can't tell the fucking difference, except maybe the volume's down a little bit lower, and you just have to turn it up because I don't believe any L34 puts out the output voltage as much as a 6L6. But other than that, they're the same fucking thing. It doesn't matter. The amp is the amp. I've never heard a Marshall and was like, that doesn't sound like a Marshall. What does that have? This has 6550s. Oh, it doesn't sound like a Marshall. Actually, it sounds just like a fucking Marshall, and I wouldn't know the tubes unless you had the thing printed on the front like they used to. But, you know, people will sit there and tell you, especially on the gear page, they tell you like, oh, well, this guitar has this tone because this is Carina and this is Maple. No, that has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. You know? Absolutely insane. Because when you hear me play this guitar, you're hearing the pickups, and the pickups work by a magnetic field, and it basically recreates that magnetic field. Magnetic field has nothing to do with what's holding it up. It's just the material of the string and the tension of the string and the distance. So yeah, that's fun stuff. I mean, I like doing stuff like that. I like ethereal sounding stuff as well, but I can sit and play. I get involved in everything, but so that's where I have the different instruments. This Strat over here is definitely much more for playing more rock stuff for me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's not how they play it on the album. Exactly. Well, if the gear page ever was to talk about Columbo, they'd be like, oh, when his jacket was this tone, he was better. It's like, what? When he had the brighter raincoat. So yeah, I mean, like I said, the best thing to do, like I said, when I started playing guitar, it was to play music and create music, and not to sit there and be, this pedal's let's compare these two identical pedals with the exact same circuit and see which one we like better. Really? That's what you're going to do? When I was a kid, somebody could have taken a shit, put a fucking jack in it, and been like, "Here, this is going to make you sound good." I'd plug right into it. People didn't care. We just sat there and tried everything. We didn't give a shit. We're just trying to find a good tone. The B bender I have, I love. Now that's another guitar that I took the neck off, sold the neck, and put a new. No, very good memory, Atomic Punk. I wanted that because I like doing that ethereal sounding stuff. But yeah, it's not that they're taking away their fun. They're creating something that doesn't exist. And it's this constant talk of what they want to tell you that they know about tone. And it's because they don't really know much about anything else. Because if they did, they wouldn't be talking about that. Like, as you can see, like when Joe and all the guys are on the show, we love talking about songs, bands, artists. That's the stuff that we got excited about music for. But what we don't get excited about is sitting there saying that, like, oh, well, this tube's going to do this. And then if you have a piece of maple, it's going to have more focused, which I love, focused mids. And my response to anyone who wants to say focused mids is fuck you. Fuck you and your focused mids. It doesn't mean anything. There's no such thing as focused mids. Oh, you mean it has more mids? Really? Well, let's compare and see. I mean, you could listen to any of the albums with, you could listen to the Gilmore stuff on the Dark Side of the Moon, then Wish You Were Here, then Animals. He has a different neck on each guitar. Now, I could tell you where he took after Dark Side of the Moon, he took the Univibe off and changed it with a chorus. That's all I could tell you. I couldn't tell you what neck was what it's so ridiculous. And it's so absurd when people are sitting there comparing pedals and they're like, oh, these are close. They're close, but they're not exact. Well, of course they're not exact. Fucking turn the knob here and you'll get it exact. You can't turn the knob. There's tolerances to these fucking things. First of all, almost every part now and component, thanks to the way this country's run, is made in China. You think those tolerances were better than when the Americans were making the parts? You got to be out of your fucking mind. Oof. Exactly. Ooh, listen to that. Must be a maple neck. Ooh, that sounds more like a rosewood. Oh, I'm just changing what pickup I'm using. Yeah, they want, because you're taking away what they know. You know? Yeah, Bigsby on a Les Paul is real cool. And the Les Pauls that come with the Bigsby, they have the roller bridges on some of them. I like those roller bridges. Might be flat too. There's a great chord to end any song in the E. I think it's an E major 13, no 11. Right? Major third, 13, major 9, 5, major 7. Yeah. Major 13, no 11. I used to have two. Actually, I had 3 of them at one point. I don't anymore. I got rid of them. I'll show you a cool sounding major 7 chord too. It's this one here. It's really cool because you have the major third, the major 7, and then the 1-5. Yeah. Bigsby's are fun, man. That's what it's for. It's that. Tim Thomas, hey. Yeah, I mean, I like chords. I like melody, and that's what I dig. And yeah, totally. Is that right? That's a chord. No, it's a. I was happy, and heaven knows I'm miserable now. Or you can get like the which is Albatross. Or you can get like the can you sorry? Can you pick me? Whoa, whoa, can you sorry? Can you pick me? Let me see if I remember it. No, I didn't hear that. Something like that, Johnny. No, I didn't hear that Martin Sheen passed. That's too bad. Yeah. It's that yeah, it's like an E major 7, but he plays it with the 13, so an E major 7 13 to an A6, I think, right? What is he C6. No, this is an A6. A, F sharp, C sharp, E, E. E major 7 sharp, E major 7 add 13. Right? 1, 3, major 7, 3 again, 13. No way is there a C in there. It's just a 1 to 4. Yeah, C would be weird there as a flat 6. That'd be weird. Well, his first guitar was a Telly. It was a 51 Nocaster. Yeah, he understood. Yeah, a lot of people ask that when I say chord names, and whether you understand the chord name to the way I'm calling it, like he would know this is an E major 7 with you could call it with a 6, but technically when you're calling something with a major 7, you go up, so it's a 13, but otherwise he knows there's a C sharp there. And this is very deliberate to have that F sharp in the A chord. That right there. Yeah, I've played that guitar, Johnny. In fact, there's pictures on my Facebook of me holding it when the guy was asking for $800,000. I think now the price is 1.4. But I got to play that. But yeah, so when it comes to playing music and all that stuff, to me, that's more important. It's like, so many guys sit there and they'll tell me about gear, but it's like, well, you should really know, like if you play a chord, how to name it. And, if someone said to me, here's an E major 7 with a 6, I'm okay with that. That's fine. I understand that that's how they want to call it, but it would really be called an E major 7 13. E major 7 13. Oh, right atomic, yes. The B section there, but yeah. So, but that chord, you should know, and it's good to know how to name chords. And to me, that stuff is more important. So like I always tell people, and this is off the beaten track, I call this a B11, right? A jazzer will call this a B9 sus4. Or actually, jazz guys won't even tell you what the sus is. They always just assume it's a 4, so they would call this a B9 sus. And so why do I call it something different? Well, usually mainly because most session guys will, but this B chord, we have an A, which is the 7, the C sharp, which is the 9, and the E, which is the 11 or the 4. And since there's no 3, yes, it would be the 4. The issue is when I call it a B11, I know I'm resolving to the 1. So if I hear this chord, then I know I'm going here. But as we play in the song, What's Going On by Marvin Gaye, if I play this chord, I'm going to call it in that song a B9 sus4. Because the resolve is by taking this finger back to the major 3rd. So we have this movement. So in this case, I have a B9 sus4 to a B9. But if it was just this, I would call it a B11 because that means I'm resolving. And that means I'm playing the 5. And I could play the... So that's that's the reason why I would call it that. See, so when someone calls a chord a sus, I want the resolve there. And so when you're naming chords and you're telling somebody chords, you want them to understand what's coming next, especially if you're charting it out for a player that's never played the song and he has to play it like he owns it. Not much, Cheech. So if I sat there and was like, okay, now I know I'm on the 5. If you call this an 11. If you call it a B9 sus, I'm expecting to hear this next. I want to hear the resolve because that's why you're telling me it's suspended. So we're going to unsuspend it. That's how I call it. The jazzers, the Berkeley guys, no, they would all just keep referring this. Yeah, Baby Come Back is the same chord. It's here. Spending all my nights, all my money going out on the town. Get you off of my mind. I wish to God that you were here. Baby, come. Let's see what the chord is. Baby, come back. Back. No, what is it? Here. Baby, come. What key am I in here? Any kind of. Oh, no, it's here. So it's baby, come back. You can blame it on me. Yeah. All right, that's another great sound. It's more organic. No, Sarah Smile doesn't, but She's Gone does. She's Gone is basically a B11 to a B. But you see, again, I wouldn't call it a B11 if we were playing it. I would tell you it's an A over B to a B. Because the A over B lets you know that now this chord is the 4 chord to a B. Right? So now instead of calling it a B11, it's A over B to let you know it's the 4. And it's also the same beginning to I'm Not in Love by 10cc. 4 to 5. Right? And She's Gone. That's it. So She's Gone. It's like everybody's high on consolation. Everybody wanna do what is right for me. Hey, Janice, la la. I need a drink and a quick decision. Oh, no, to be what she wanted to be. She's gone. I've got to learn how to fish it. So that's that. And then the other one is basically just, starts off with all this. Then it's like. I'm not in love, so don't forget it, Papa. It's just a silly phase I'm going through. I do have a lesson on She's Gone, and I have a lesson on I'm Not in Love. Just because I call you up, Papa, don't get me wrong, don't think you've got it made. I'm not in love, oh no. It's because so that's a fun one too. But yeah, all these, the 70s always had these nice chords. With these, you hear it a lot. In fact, She's Gone back in the 70s, Hall & Oates, when they did She's Gone, I'm playing through my Fender Mustang amp, and it's going through my computer. So when you do, remember in She's Gone, when he's like, she's gone, gone, whoa, 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 gotta learn how to fix, and it goes B11, C11, C sharp 11, she's gone. Okay. So they change keys, and they use that 11 chord as a way to modulate because it has a great sound to modulate. The Bee Gees also used it when they did Nobody gets too much heaven no more. It's much harder to come by. I'm waiting in line. And at the end of the song, when he goes, and then it goes changes keys. Okay, so I'm having trouble getting my acoustic loud enough through my PA without feedback. I'm using a Mackie Flex with a Mackie mixer. Any hints? What is a Mackie Flex? Taylor 214 CE guitar should be able to get you the sound. Are you decking the sound on the volume on the guitar? And then you want to get your guitar out of the way of the speaker. You really want to be not near the speaker. I can't stress that enough, especially, and pull some of the bass out of the because the 214 has the 3 knobs, the volume and the bass and the treble. Yeah, I liked Gordon Lightfoot. We had to play the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, and that song was so boring to me when you have to play it because it's just. It's just like over and over, and it doesn't stop. It's like the longest story ever told. But I love Sundown. I love If You Could Read My Mind. Not decking it, but near speaker could be a problem. Yeah, turn down the bass. I would. Yeah. A lot of guitar players tend to think they should be playing boomy, the soul chord. Yeah, I mean, it's in a lot of soul songs. How about Love TKO by Teddy Pendergrass, who uses it. Michael Jackson uses it on I Wanna Run With, what is it? Run With You. Dance you into the... Right? All those chords there. Turn the bass up on the channel and the mids down. Yeah, you don't want to turn the bass up. The bass up is going to cause a lot of boominess. It also will make you have to sing louder because one of the things you want to do is have it so you hear the guitar, you hear your vocal, and you're both not fighting for space. And a lot of people, I see it all the time with bands too, where they have the guitar players playing this warm sound. The bass is like him and the bass player are fighting for sound. And then the singer has to shout over all this mess. It's like, man, you could EQ this and clean it up. This is hey, Paul Baluch, how's it going? These are the what the hell's his name? TV Jones Classics. They're the Gretsch style pickups from TV Jones. I think they're great sounding pickups, and this is just a clean sound I have. Yeah, you just want to take it out. You can turn the volume up because you can get away because the boominess of the acoustic is what's feeding back. It's usually not the high end unless you're right on top of the speaker. Now let me just see what I have on this amp here. So this amp is I'm in my Fender Mustang. I'm using a Fender Deluxe. I have the gain on in between 0 and 1. The volume's on 10, treble's on 10, mids are on 6, the bass is on 4. I'm going through a tube screamer overdrive, which is a very low gain, and I have a tremolo on, but it's barely on. Like, and then, yeah, I love that. Dance you into the sunlight, rock with you. Is that a picture of Billy Sheehan right here? That's Dennis Hopper smoking a punch cigar. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. Never can say goodbye. Never can say goodbye. Every time I try to tell you, da 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 da. She said, da 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 da. Tell me, what is this next chord? Tell me. What is that chord here? Tell me why, oh, why it isn't so. I never let you go. I never can say goodbye. Let's see. It's the biggest difference with guitars in the 70s. Was 70s. Yeah, a lot of the funk guys and R&B guys were playing limited chords, but they were getting that 11, what he calls the soul chord sound. Like if you ever watch my lesson of Shame, it's like, and when the bass goes to an A, the chord goes to a G triad, and that's that chord. It's just played wider spaced. And when you do it that way with the wider space, the keyboard's in there filling it in, the vocal, everything fits nicer. So those guys always played partial chords, which is where I have a problem. There's a guy who teaches R&B songs a lot on YouTube, and he's always just calling the chords off as the name. And I'm like, well, yes, but it's a partial to an 11 chord. So you really, I like to let people know what's going on. You know, and also a lot on my lessons, I'm trying to teach people how to play these songs on acoustic so they can sit and enjoy it, hearing the full chord that's used in the song. And then I get people like, that's not the way he played it on the record. Well, no shit, because he's not sitting by himself playing in a fucking acoustic. I'm trying to show you how the song is. If you can't figure out, like if I say to you, it's a G major 7. And on the record, they're playing a G in the bass and a B minor here. That's a G major 7. G major 7 is basically a B minor over G. Corey Wong's excellent. Excellent. No, I never, you know what? I've met Lee Sklar twice, but I've never played with him. I love Devo. Yeah, I'm a big Devo fan. Great band. Was it? Yeah. Yeah, like I said, when I teach songs, I'm just trying to teach you, like, this is the chord that's being used in the song. Here's the full sound of that chord. So, because like if I'm teaching like That Girl Can Sing, he's not playing on the guitar. It's a piano doing the. So I'm just trying to show you how you can play it on the guitar and get away with playing. She was a friend to me when I needed one. Could have turned out to be just about anyone, almost anyone. What is that? With the exception of who I wanted her to be. Yeah, and that's the whole thing, Ed. And even in the last one I did of Steve Wariner, I showed you ways he played his song The Weekend when I've seen him play it live acoustic, and then I show you the way I would approach it. And depending on my mood, I'll play either one, but they both work, and it's really about trying to get the song so you can play it. You know what I mean? So you can get it under your fingers. Hey, Raven. And and getting into like where you been, man? Playing chords like this, E minor 9. C add 9 sharp 11. You have all these sounds, and that's all just playing in the key of G, right? So, a lot of people will be like, if I hit the C at 9 sharp 11, people are like, oh, that's Lydian. To me, I'm playing. Playing E minor over it, because to me, that's the most comfortable in how I hear it melodically. I hear you. Let's see, what would be the minor there? Yeah, you have to approach them differently. So when I play with Jim and I have to do solos, I have to completely approach them to the note and and I have to avoid certain bends, and if not most of the bends. We do Tennessee Whiskey, and when we get to this part of the solo, I'm just basically following the chords. So I'll do like a lot of things like when it goes then I'll do this Heart of the Night. In the heart of the night, and the cool. Right. Oh, I'm out. and the dawn rising on the pocket train in the heart of the night. I have to go listen to it. It's been a long time. I wanted to do the song, Who Do I Want Thrown Out? Did I say I want anyone thrown out? I don't know. Lady by Supertramp. That one I don't know if I know off the top of my head. Michael Morris, welcome. I've done There Are Times When All the World's Asleep and questions run so deep. Such a simple man. Won't you please tell me. Well, it's my favorite album. I got to go back and listen. Gino Benders are made by a guy in Nashville. Tell me what Let me see if I can remember his name. Give me a second. What is his name? He's a country guy. He makes all the guys in Nashville. He makes all their G benders. I know he made one for Warren, and he makes B and G on the same guitar. In fact, I just saw one today. Somebody was posted one. That's why I'm blanking. Hold on. Let me just look real quick. It's the Glazer. The Glazer Bender. Just go to Glazer Bender. It's glazerbender.com. He makes B and G benders. GLASER. Yeah, they're a half step down, I would imagine. What would you say if they were... Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, if you look at chords like the way I look at chords, like when I see a B minor, and I see a G major 7, I just see the B minor over G. So if you play a G major 7, you play the B minor. B minor riffs sound awesome over it. And then the same when you go play an A13, which is a G major 7 over an A. Same thing, you can play that B minor again. Haven't I done that? I think I did that one. When I need, what is it? I'll see what key it's in. I need. I held out my hand and I touched love. Never knew there was so much. Keeping me warm night and day. It's not easy when the road is your driver. A telephone could take the place of yours. But you know I won't be traveling. What is that next chord? A lifetime. It's hold out and do like I that next chord. Oh, no. Yeah, it's a fun one. There's a nice chord. I like if you're playing something and you want to pretty it up, like an A minor 7 chord. It's nice to give the A minor 7 at 11. So I'm playing an A, G, C, a D on the second string, and an open E. It just makes it prettier. So that's what I was doing. It's like the telephone can take. It just adds that 11 in there that I like. Which you hear it a lot in songs like and something's telling me it might be you. Yes, it's telling me it must be you. All of my life. Anyways. Anyway, so tomorrow night, I am back with the crew. Joe will be here. Krellbar will be here. Exactly, Cheech. Great movie. The gang will be here. I am calling it a night. I want to thank everyone for hanging out with me tonight. I just figured I would rant and rave, piss and moan for a little bit, and figured I'd break out the guitar, and you guys always seem to dig it when I do. Thanks, Janice. Oh, nice, Johnny. Oh, yeah, there you go, the wings. With a little luck, we can work it out. And that's the end of the show. As always, everybody, very good.